At this point, folks, I'd love to open this up to everybody and anybody. We should have a GW student. Do we have a GW student here? Oh, we do, Jesse. Yes, Jesse. Jesse's there. I want to open this conversation up to everybody in the room, from our CEO to the microphone, to our students, to our visiting friends, to our farmers, to really have something of a conversation, but to incorporate it with and through our students, both homegrown and visiting. So let me start by asking you to all introduce yourselves, give us your name, tell us what you're studying, where you're from, and a one-line, it's like you were tweeting, okay? A one-line impression of something you heard today.
Okay, my name is Alan Sylvester. I'm visiting from the University of Oregon in Eugene, Oregon, and I study multimedia journalism. One line about what I heard today, I think that collectively the people on stage here are trying to work really hard to take in the needs of the farmers and the people that are going to use the technology that they're trying to invent. And I think that they did a good job at listening to the needs of the farmers in the audience today.
Hello, my name is Daniel Sweeney. I'm a junior from Purdue University in West Lafayette, Indiana, and I'm studying plant breeding and genetics. And one thing that I really took away from today's events, from an agricultural institution like Purdue, you kind of can get caught up in just your view of things. And it's been really nice to see that there's all these different groups and outlooks focusing on the same problem. And that's encouraging because it is going to take a lot of people and a lot of different ideas to solve these problems. So it's really exciting to see these different universities, all these different companies and NGOs, and it's encouraging.
Hi, I'm Joy Owens. I'm a senior studying sustainability science and women and gender and sexuality studies at Furman University in Greenville, South Carolina. And one thing I took away from today is that we are trying to, reach education beyond this room and connect voices and needs. But I'm interested also in when we move beyond education and actually affect real human behavior change.
Hi, my name is Nicole Buckley. I am a senior at Roger Williams University, which is in Rhode Island, and I'm studying journalism. One thing I learned today is that agriculture is sexy. No, but really, we have to keep the dialogue open and not just get a job. We have to be leaders.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jess Parker. I'm a junior Feb from Middlebury College. I'm an environmental studies and geography joint major. One of the things that I found that was interesting about today was how the discussion was framed around the idea of productivity and technology. And I'd also, I think, would push to think more about sort of innovations that aren't necessarily science-based.
Like what?
I think utilizing local knowledge and local farmers and really having the knowledge come from farmers themselves who are developing technologies that maybe aren't coming from people who aren't specifically connected to the land itself. So that's something that I would hope to hear more about.
Okay, well, maybe we can hear some more about that when we open the room up.
Hi, my name's Christy Turner. I'm from the University of Colorado at Boulder. We didn't get our shout out in earlier.
Oh, sorry. Let's shout them out. University of Colorado, Boulder.
See you, Boulder. I'm here with the Center for Environmental Journalism. I'm doing a master's in environmental journalism. And today I was most interested in the debate around, or the discussion around, the linkages between climate change and how it affects sustainable food production in the future.
Hi, I'm Jesse Schaefer. I'm a senior at the George Washington University, studying international affairs, but urban farming on the side. And I found the idea of kind of small farmer self-determination. It was mentioned in pieces, is really important to me, and I think that's really an interesting approach to sustainable agriculture in the developing world.
Well, I heard a couple of comments here about sort of small farming sustainability, and you'd like to hear more of the conversation, people from the land, and we know we have farmers in the room. So if you want to frame that as a question, where are our dairy farmers that we have around with us? Okay, so over here, come on down. Who else? Okay. Go ahead, Jesse, frame the question.
I was Just saying that I was a dairy farmer.
Oh, you're a dairy. Okay, you're a farmer too. So what are you saying? What do you think? What are you looking for in this conversation?
That's a good question. I guess when I think one of the conversations that was really interesting was this idea of increasing productivity, especially like in production of dairy and that sort of thing. And I guess I wonder how that can be done in a way that isn't problematic for the animals or the environment, and like looks at things holistically, not always about efficiency, but making sure that animals are treated well and that like the planet itself is treated well.
Suzanne, you own a farm?
Yes, I do.
Where?
In Indiana. We're a big farm. We milk 15,000 cows. And
One at a time?
on 5 different rotary carousels. So it's 24-hour-a-day operation. Never stop. We don't stop for Christmas or Thanksgiving. But that's a great question. Sustainability has been something that we've spent a lot of the past probably 10 years really defining and trying to move the needle forward. So for a farmer, sustainable, there's 100 things that you can do on your farm that you could become sustainable or act in a sustainable way. But as Jeff had mentioned earlier, if your practices don't add value, so basically he was saying that if your practices don't add to your bottom line, they're not sustainable. So we are, in this great country of ours, really as much as we talk about subsidies, you talk to a farmer and there's not a whole lot of subsidies out there. When you look at the margins of what a farmer makes, it's pretty slim. So you don't get into farming to make money, that's for sure. You're in it because you love it. So sustainability, we're not Europe, and we don't have those subsidies whereby we can implement technology. So we have to become very creative. We have to be innovative. We have to be very resourceful with our capital. So those are some of the things. It's real easy to talk sustainability, but sustainability to be a real practice has to be something that is not going to affect your bottom line. At least it's neutral, because if it's costing you money to implement a practice, it's not going to last very long.
Jesse, I'm sorry, tell me. Jess, yes. Any thoughts on that? Any of you others want to jump in on this? Comments, observations, questions? I mean, because it seems to me I'm hearing the word sustainability used in 2 different ways.
Right.
All right? One is sustainability, meaning, okay, the land is sustainable, the water is sustainable, the planet is sustainable. The other sustainability is economic sustainability. I stay in business. All right? The question is, how do you do both?
And
I'm sorry, did you want to jump in?
My question was just going to be, how do you define sustainability?
right. And it's got to be economically sustainable in the long run. Now, saying that, I'll let you know that on our farms, we do some really, truly sustainable things. We take our manure from all 15,000 of our cows, and in addition, a very large pig farm that's on our property as well. And we create our own electricity, and we power our own buildings with that.
How?
By using methane digesters. So we take all of the manure, we basically put them in some 250,000 gallon holding tanks. The bacteria that's in there inherently eats the manure. So it's eating the solids in the manure, and basically it's farting out methane. And we capture that methane. That methane then powers turbines, which create electricity. And then on top of that, we actually had so much energy, we had so much electricity that we could potentially sell back to the grid, but they didn't want to pay us anything reasonable. So we said, okay, what can we do with all of this extra energy that we have? So we went to Europe and studied some of the great technology that they had there for gas cleaning. And now we're taking our biogas from the digesters, we're cleaning it, we're compressing it, we're filling up trucks, 18-wheeler trucks with special engines designed to burn CNG, which is what we see all the buses around Washington, D.C. running on. And so now we take our milk in these big 18-wheelers down to our markets in Indianapolis, Tennessee, Kentucky, using our own biogas. So I guess my point is that, and you know what, and with all of the infrastructure, with all of the capital-intensive things that we've done, we actually make money off of that. So that's sustainable. That's truly sustainable. And it's something that, you know, as a large-scale farm, we could do because we are large-scale, because we have those efficiencies. But what we hope to do is that this technology, like all technology, will become cheaper and more efficient the next time it's done, and cheaper and more efficient the next time that it's done, until finally, hopefully in 10 years from now, every dairy farm will have an energy-producing source on the farm. So sustainability, you know, it can come from someone who is in their backyard, you know, maybe using some unused lot to produce some food that's you know, that's being sold right there. So there's very low carbon footprint. But also you can look at what some of these, you know, some big ag, or what people would call factory farms, such as ourselves, how we're pushing the envelope too. So it's you know, don't think of sustainability as just organic or just, you know, small farms. It's a lot of people doing a lot of good things.
It's those two. I mean, it's what Chris Policinski says. He talks about the and. It's your large farm and it's the organic
It's going to take
right?
us all to feed the world.
I want to know what you guys want to do in food. I want to know what, if you get your wish list, your dream, if you could apply to the great employer in the audience here, what do you want to do? Go ahead.
So, sorry to be talking a lot, but I would say my plan, currently applying to farm apprenticeships. So after this, I'm going to work on a farm. I think there's been a lot of talk today, right, about like how are we going to change policy, how are we going to do this on the global scale, but at a certain point, people need food. Someone needs to grow it. So I'm interested in actually growing food and working on a farm.
What kind of food do you want to grow?
I'm interested in small-scale horticulture and animal husbandry, so raising animals for like value-added products, and then also like growing a variety of vegetables.
Any particular part of the country you want to be in?
I'm looking at urban renewal. So there's a lot of projects, like you look at places like Detroit that are now bankrupt, but they have a lot of land and people need to be fed there. And,
so you might actually open a farm in Detroit?
Yeah, Detroit or Chicago. I'm from Chicago originally, so I'd like to get back to my hometown. But
now, would that be hard to do or easy to do? I mean, are there people who are going to lend you the money to open to start buying the equipment and the land and all that you need to do?
That's actually a really good question. I think no pun intended, it's a growing field. Right now there's a lot of money going into sustainable agriculture and sustainable urban agriculture. I actually had to miss the first public meeting on the Farm Bill today, but I was going to go there to tell them that we need to fund small farmers. We need to fund first-generation farmers, the greenhorns. And so there is a lot of money there. We just need to tell our congresspeople, and we need to tell people that they need to fund us. If we want to be the next generation of like sustainable farmers, we need to go out and do it. So not let anybody else tell us different.
So you're going to go into an urban setting and you're going to create an urban farm and presumably sell your produce locally. Can you make money at this?
Yeah, that's the plan. Although, to be honest, I have no interest in making profit. I'm interested in making sure people get fed.
No, but you do have to make the rent.
Yeah, I want to be able to like live in a room with 4 walls and a bed. But generally, when it comes down to it, it's about feeding people, and I think that needs to be priority.
That's terrific. Who else? What are some of your other plans? Go ahead.
So currently I'm doing research with community gardens in Greenville, and that's obviously a very niche market and very like local and small way to address food issues in very small communities. And kind of what I'm interested through that is looking at connecting people with their food and where it comes from, if it comes from a community garden, if it comes from a farmer, and working with developing food hubs like we're trying to develop in Greenville now that connects farmers and gardeners and urban gardeners and consumers, so everyone is kind of educated about where their food comes from and is making these collective decisions about policy and growing techniques and just.
Is that going to be an easy job to find?
Oh no, but you know, I might have to create it myself, but that's okay.
That's good. That's called entrepreneurship. Roger Williams, who's Roger Williams? Okay, before we hear your dreams, I want to show your video. So the Roger Williams folks are doing some really, really cool stuff. And Michael Scully here is an amazing professor-producer and worked with his team to tell a story about sustainability. All right, so if we've got the Roger Williams video, can we take a look at this?
Oyster farming in Rhode Island is a real up-and-coming industry. It's been growing at a rate of about 15% per year for the last 10 or 15 years. It has a value to the farmers of somewhere between $3 and $4 million a year. One of the things that we've been working on that we've had some good success is developing a solar-powered upweller. The solar-powered upweller is totally off the grid and 100% able to stand on its own without any outside energy inputs. Oyster farming is a very sustainable industry. First and foremost, it produces food, a very high-quality protein, and at the same time, it provides a host of ecological services such as filtering the water and habitat for small fishes. Oysters are very low on the food chain, and so they're directly converting the plants of the sea, the phytoplankton, into a protein that is eagerly consumed by humans.
So, do you eat those oysters?
I wouldn't try it.
You're not crickets or oysters?
Maybe crickets. I don't know about oysters.
You'd eat crickets before oysters. Okay.
Yeah, it's a texture thing. It is.
I get it. I get it. So, what are your aspirations?
Well, at Roger Williams, like that said, we have a shellfish hatchery. We grow our own oysters and release them into the bay. And before they go to market, they actually filter up to 50 gallons of water a day. And then they go to market where they're rich in omega-3 fatty acids. So not only are we trying to feed the planet, but we're trying to save the planet by restoring the bay and everything that Dale just said. So that's our hope.
Tell us how the solar factors into that.
Well, those are the upwellers, which that's all part of the process. Once they go to the hatchery into the cages, the upwellers are a part of the whole thing as well. So they go through that and run through the water, and it's a filtering process. And when they're solar powered, they're just off the grid. They have no other electrical power. We went to an oyster farm on Hog Island in Rhode Island, which is totally off the grid, no electricity, and the guy there uses the solar powered upwellers. So it's awesome.
Can I bring somebody in who knows everything there is to know about solar
yeah,
power?
Please.
So Jerry Bloom, tell them who you are and what you do.
Okay, I'm Jerry Bloom, and I'm a board member of the Solar Institute at George Washington University, and I'm a lawyer who practices in renewable energy and sustainability.
So what's the one thing they need to know if they want to see the technology they just captured go to scale and really make a difference?
Yeah, I'd like to marry that with the comment of the farmer who talked about the digesters. One of the things we haven't talked about enough today is the marriage of renewable energy and sustainability in terms of how it plays into the food chain and the importance. So to your point, there's actually a federal law that was passed many decades ago that would require the utility to buy that electricity that you produce from the manure and pay you at their avoided cost. Which has been the heart of how we grew the renewable energy in the country for the last 30 years. In terms of the solar, this really is the future of from when you can be on all these farms in all these places, and particularly we've had a huge amount of focus today on for example, Africa. If you think about the ability of being off the grid, but in Africa and these places around the world where we're also trying to feed people, there is no infrastructure, there's nothing there. So if you start marrying and bringing in solar energy, not only to produce food and electricity and heat and all those types and light, there's an incredible nexus that has to be totally explored, integrated between what we do with food, what we do with energy. The two global issues that really are driving the planet is food and energy.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. And he's a lawyer, so if you need any help with this, he's hourly rates are very reasonable. Next aspiration, professional aspiration, tell us.
As I mentioned, my major is plant breeding and genetics, and I'm from a suburban background, so not agriculture at all. But a big reason I got interested in plant breeding and genetics is because it's a great marriage between science and humanitarian service. A couple of the earlier speakers with the World Wildlife Fund, National Geographic, especially World Wildlife Fund, they mentioned on their wheel, one of those wedges was genetics, and that's a huge part of improving our crops for all these grand challenges that we're facing, using less nitrogen to decrease our dependence on fossil fuels and decreasing runoff, improving the nutritional qualities of existing crops is enormous right now, combating new insect and disease pressures, drought. There's a lot of challenges, but there's a lot of really fascinating technology out there, and it's such an important field. I don't know which one of those problems I'm most interested in right now, but there's a lot to choose from, and I will never get bored.
You will not get bored. And I'm going to come, we have a small farmer here as well. I'm going to come to you in a moment, but I want to play off the energy food connection for a minute, what Jerry was talking about, that you all were talking about, with a look at the video that our University of Oregon, where's the University of Oregon? Okay, so your video, which we got to play. Let's take a look at this.
What we're putting together is what's referred to, particularly in the European Union, as a biogas plant. In our case, anaerobic digestion, which is a fermentation process, ferments food waste to generate methane-rich gas. Our plant is almost exclusively fed post-consumer food waste. We're taking what would have been a waste stream and recovering energy from it. In doing that, we're reducing waste going to the landfill, we're reducing the amount of greenhouse gases going to the atmosphere, and we're reducing the need for petroleum-based energy sources.
So did you go out and take a look at that?
Yeah, we did. We were out there. We toured. Yeah, we were out there. We toured the whole facility. We actually met with the CEO at his office in Eugene, and then spent an entire Saturday out there, and he walked us through the plant, explained the entire process and everything that went into making that plant possible.
And do you think that that can really take off and go to scale, or is that going to be a niche thing?
I do think it can go to scale.
Homes?
We've already seen that in Europe a lot. They have hundreds of post-consumer food waste biogas plants, and I think that it's just something. It's a new technology we haven't seen here in the United States yet. There's only a few of them, but I think it is something that can take off.
Suzanne, you do any of this with your methane?
Yeah, actually we do for one of our digesters, and it's the bigger one. I think it's 1 million gallons. We do food waste from a couple different companies, and so the great thing is instead of them taking it to the dump and it becomes part of a landfill and whatever other problems it could cause, we throw it into our digester. The nice thing for us is that because all of that food waste is pretty much straight sugar, it just exponentially gives us that much more
high test
energy. It's like high test, yeah. It's like throwing gas on a fire, basically. So it gives us that much more energy. But yeah, and actually the NFL going to be at the Cleveland Browns game in a couple of weeks, and the NFL is going to be working with some local digesters within their NFL cities, and taking all the food waste from the NFL stadiums and putting it into digesters.
Now, you're from a small farm, right, Grace?
Yes.
How small is small?
30 acres in Connecticut, born and raised.
What do you grow on 30 acres in Connecticut?
So much you wouldn't believe. Basically, we have 3 different orchards. Both my parents come from strong farming backgrounds. We grow every type of vegetable and fruit you can imagine. We have cows. We've done dairy, not however many you have, but definitely we've gone through cows, pigs, chickens.
And you're paying the bills off 30 acres?
No, that's the thing. Being here for today, it's kind of opened my eyes to how a lot of people can sit up on stage and talk about things being done in Washington, D.C. and big policies, but the fact is that it's sometimes difficult to get back to the small farmer. And that's just the biggest thing I think I've gotten out of today is that any type of farming can work. Large-scale agribusiness can work, and small-scale mom-and-pop kind of things can work. But it's just finding a market for every type of farm, and it's supporting every type of farm, because every type of farm is sustainable. Large farms with 150,000 cows are just as sustainable as a small one, but it's trying to find the support for every type, and it's difficult. Where I come from a very rural area, and it is a lot of small farms, and a lot of them are going under. People can't afford to keep them anymore because there just isn't the support for small farmers. So that's the big thing I've gotten out.
All right. Well, I'm glad to hear from a small farmer, and I'm glad to hear that you're in the business. I'm not surprised it's hard to be in the business. It's hard to be in the business when you're a big farm, which is why we have as many big farms as we are. So what's scalable? What's sustainable? How do you do that? How do you balance everything off? I want to come down to the students again for another aspiration. Who else wants to share their career trajectory with us? And we're going to wrap in just a couple of minutes, and the president of George Washington University, Stephen Knapp, is going to have a few words just to send us off to the reception and drinking upstairs. Somebody say drinking upstairs. All right? Anybody? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Tell us where you're from again.
I'm actually from Rhode Island, so that was pretty cool.
But in Colorado?
Yeah, studying in Colorado. As an environmental reporter, there's a lot of aspects of sustainable food production that interest me, and some of, I guess, what we haven't addressed today are lingering questions on my mind. And obviously we have a lot of industry representatives and sponsors here, and so there are a couple, sort of accepted ideas that we've been working off of all day, like we're going to need to produce 70% more food to feed everybody by 2050. We need to give 2 glasses of milk to everybody. Personally, I've been vegan for 13 years and alive and well, marathon runner and whatnot. And so, personally, not as a journalist, there's a lot of ideas that I implement in my life that have to do with using less, reusing more, not necessarily thinking, the population's going to grow by X, therefore all those new people with those rising incomes that we talked about this morning are going to definitely want, therefore we must give them this type of diet and this type of food source that, that we have in the West, but arguably isn't the only choice or the best choice. So
you said that's very important in talking about consuming less and all. There is great inequity in the world as to where the calories are consumed and where the calories are needed. And we know that, and that's what we heard about last night, actually, from Congressman Jim McGovern, who was with us, and he talked about sort of the distant cousins of hunger and obesity. Both of them exist side by side in this country. I do want to point out to you, though, that outside we have a display, and if you haven't visited already, it's very cool, from the folks from the Calorie Cloud. And they are working with a technology that will allow people to donate their calories, to burn their calories and donate their calories literally to places where those calories are needed. So you may want to visit them on the way out, because that is a very interesting new application. We have one more question for you from somebody who approaches us here, and then we're going to close it down.
Hi, I'm Francisco Alvarez. As a student here at George Washington University, I had the pleasure of participating with the Solar Decathlon over the past several months. The Solar Decathlon both was an opportunity to design a green home, but also as part of our design, we had a vegetable garden that for us was an important aspect to reconnect this idea of being part of an ecosystem to whoever was using that home. For me, this was a great leadership opportunity, a great way to stoke interest in sustainability and also to foster that interest in agriculture. Some of you are from science backgrounds, not all of you. Science is maybe more straightforward translation into agriculture. But what have you seen done on campus? What have you done to be leaders in the interest of sustainable agriculture? including to those who might not see themselves as part of the picture. They might say, well, I'm not an engineer. What role can I play? How can I reconnect with the land? And how can you show that agriculture is sexy?
All right, let's have just a couple people pop in here. Tell us what you've done.
I'm part of
We're
a.
almost out of time, so just be
Okay,
quick.
I'm part of an organization called Purdue Ag Week. It's fairly simple. Even though we do have a strong agriculture program at Purdue, there's a lot of engineers and other majors who really don't know what agriculture is and what it does for them in their daily lives here in 2013. So our mission is to educate our peers in other colleges and parts of the campus about why agriculture is important, how it connects to them in their daily lives, and what it does for them.
Anybody else? Jesse? Quickly.
Yeah, really quick. About 3 blocks down the street, we built a community garden / community farm. All the produce that we produce there goes to Miriam's Kitchen, Soup Kitchen, homeless shelter, amazing organization there. And so we've created a closed loop system for the food system here in DC. And it's a model that we just created. We didn't have a background in it, but it can be done. And it's about kind of rethinking paradigms and relooking at the way we see the world. Yeah.
Well, and I just want to thank you for that, and I want to celebrate what you and what all of you guys are doing, because it's as we've discussed here, you're already leaders. You're already doing things both in your lives and as examples on your own campuses and in your communities about what can be done. And I hope you'll take this forward, and I hope you'll invest in yourselves and invest in your communities and invest in the planet, in the way we eat and the way we grow and the way we move the planet forward. So thank you very, very much. Would you join me, please, in thanking these students for coming here from across the country?